Welcome to the Sweet Hometown Podcast, where we share the stories, strategies, and successes shaping Alabama's Main Street districts. I'm Jennifer Schutte with Main Street Alabama, and I am so glad you're here.
And I'm Mary Helmer Worth. I'm the state coordinator for Main Street Alabama. This podcast is all about the people and partnerships that are driving revitalization, one district at a time, from small towns to city neighborhoods all across our state. Whether you're a local volunteer, a director, or someone passionate about community development, we hope you'll find ideas, inspiration, and a few aha moments right here. Okay, so we have Jennifer Schutte with us this afternoon to talk about her experiences with Main Street, a little bit different than you may have heard from Courtney, who has been a Main Street director for a long time, but she is one of the women who lead Main Street, so we thought it would be fun to give you a different perspective. So I'm going to ask Jennifer some questions, and Lord knows where we're going to go with this, but I'm sure it'll be entertaining. So the first question, when did you first become acquainted with the Main Street program?
Well, as Mary said, I kind of got a different view of it just because I actually started my career in corporate America. So I spent 21 years in corporate America, and then COVID hit. And so all of a sudden I was looking for a job. And I started, trying to figure out what I wanted to do and trying to decide on something different. I was kind of tired of the corporate grind. And a friend of ours, actually a mutual friend of ours, was like, hey, Main Street Alabama's looking for some help if you're interested in a job. And I was like, well, okay. So I did a little research, looked at the website, because that's the person I am, and started looking at it. I was like, this is kind of cool. This kind of harkens back to working in corporate America and traveling all over small communities across mostly Alabama, but also in Texas and Arkansas and all the different places, and go into these little towns. And some of them were like booming and doing all kinds of stuff. And then some were just like, they were sad. It was just sad to drive through it. And so after looking at the website and stuff and talking to you, I was like, I kind of think I could do this. So that's kind of how that whole evolution started.
So while you were doing your research, before you came into the office and had the interview, what interested you the most? Had you heard about Main Street at all before that, first of all? If you hadn't, then what did interest you about Main Street once you started looking through the website?
So I had not.
Okay.
But I had seen parts of what I would consider to be Main Street now that I know what it is.
Okay.
Like the banners and the nice downtowns and the flowers and all the fun stuff. But when what really drew me was just reading about how it's not just one thing and how it kind of ties a bunch of different things together. And I liked how there were communities all over the state, which I thought was really interesting. And then doing a little more research and going to the Main Street America site and just kind of figuring out that, this is a job where you can actually make a difference. I did make a difference in my corporate America job, but this just seemed like it would be a whole lot more fun than what I had done before.
And I think what we tend to see, at least when I was a local director and what I hear from directors that I work with now, is that people think of Main Street sometimes as the prom, after prom planning committee, the party people. We're the ones who run the events and the activities and all the other things that go on. And we're so much more than the after prom planning committee. We really need to be thinking about what it means when we have events and activities within a district, that they are helping the businesses make money, that we're helping the economy, that we're giving a positive light to visitors and even those who live there about what Main Street is. I remember a particular event a long time ago when I was a director where people were kind of walking, milling around, and you're waiting to pick up the next round of trash, because that's what we do as Main Street directors. And I heard these ladies talking about how they hadn't been downtown in years. And it was just shocking to me. And they said, we only come downtown to pay our water bill or to go to the city offices or do whatever. We didn't know all this stuff was here. And it's like, that really hit me at that point. We got to do a better job of communicating all the really great things that we have going on outside of the times that we have events and activities. So that's something that's really cool. So how long have you worked now with Main Street Alabama? We haven't killed her yet. She's still there. So.
Feels like forever. No, it will be 5 years in
5 years
April.
already.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's either really quick or really long, depending upon how you look at it. But yes, it'll be 5 years in April. So.
Okay. So from the time that you started, I'm a little afraid to ask this question. From the time that you started to where you are now, what do you think has, what is the shift in your primary focus from those early days to where we are now?
I really think learning about where I fit. So when I first got hired, I think you and I had the conversation about me being concerned about not fitting in because I don't speak Main Street, right? And I think one of those things was, who's going to listen to me? I come from a totally different background. I'm not really what you'd call a touchy-feely, people-y person. It's just not my skill set. I'm happy buried in a book of spreadsheets and numbers, and I'm perfectly happy with my life. So I think that was probably the big thing. But I've learned that, there's places, and I guess it's kind of true for everything, right? There's places in Main Street for everybody. So I think the takeaway there is while my strong suit may not be going out and kissing babies and hugging puppies or whatever.
All the things.
I didn't say kicking
Just the
puppies. I said hugging
kiss
puppies.
the puppies. I would do that.
My skill set is better served in different areas, but it's still part of it. And it has been interesting how over the past 5 years, the directors in those communities have reached out and kind of embraced me. So it's been interesting to see that shift because it took a little bit of time. I had a lot of people side-eye on me for a while, but I think
it's the hair.
Probably is. Well, you never know
might be
what
the
color.
attitude.
You never
I'm
know
not
what
sure.
color it's going to be either. So there's always that. But
Yeah, I think it's just seeing. You do need to see how you fit in. And I talk to different Main Street programs all the time when they're hiring directors or they have volunteers. And I always encourage them to look at the skill set that person has. So I had a fabulous design chair. He was so good, one of the nicest people I've ever been around, so knowledgeable and just brilliant in so many ways. Hated public speaking. Hated it. He goes, Mary, I will do anything you ask me to do, but not make me stand up in front of people. And I'm shocked because, one-on-one, he was just so conversational. But this is the guy. Years ago, we were taking these big boards because people would board up their upper story windows way back in the day. Don't know why. It's kind of silly. Don't do that. But they were all boarded up and we were taking them down. Thank goodness it was a Sunday afternoon. And okay, we didn't ask for permission. We just asked for forgiveness afterwards. But we get up there on a ladder. It's just him and I. And these are huge sheets of plywood. And we take it off and he's on. So the ladder is on the awning. Yeah.
oh my
Not one of my smarter moments. but
my corporate America EHS heart just skipped a little beat right there.
we're up there and he goes, here it comes. And it comes down and it hits the awning because we thought it would miss the awning. It didn't. And it bounced off the awning and into the street. And that ladder that he was on went ching. And he still stayed on the committee, so bless him. You do need to be safe out there. That wasn't one of our smarter moves. But what a brilliant guy and just a ton of fun to work with. But I knew that if I ever asked him to speak publicly, the guy would get on a ladder and risk his life. But he did not want to speak in front of a group of people. So it's important that you point out. I think what you're really pointing out is there's a place for anybody who has the desire to get involved with Main Street. Yeah. If you're a person that just wants to be behind the computer, Lord knows we need those skills. If you're great at AI, scares me just a tad, but if you're great at that, we have opportunities for people to get involved in our communities. If you're a person that likes to do design or paint or those types of things, there's opportunities to get involved. So that's really cool. So she did bring a very different skill set, and it's been a ton of fun working with her. She's very motivated to have good workflow.
Yes.
Which is
I'm all about order.
She is.
All about organization.
And
it's my happy place.
This is my fourth one. You've probably figured out I'm like all over the place, but I get things done. So last question for you. What advice would you give someone who's interested in getting involved with Main Street on a local level or even at the state level if they want to get involved?
Honestly, I think it's just about asking those questions and figuring out, like we were just talking about, where you fit in. I think figuring out what is needed or what you can do to help, whether it's sweeping a sidewalk or watering a flower or, helping the director go around and pick up trash after an event, or even just volunteering to take notes at a committee meeting or whatever that is. I think you start to feel better about where you live if you have a piece of that with you. So I think if you get involved with these communities and start kind of thinking about, okay, I want my kids to grow up here and what's going to happen to this community. What can I do to make it a better place for my kids? Or what can I do to make it a better place for when I'm old? Thank you.
Sure.
I think those are really the things. Is just get involved and try to find a place where you fit. And even if you can't, at least go down and shop in those stores that are
Exactly.
working
Show
their butts
support.
off. Yeah, that are trying to make it work and do all the things. And, that's support.
Yeah, because it's the local businesses that are putting ads in all of the high school yearbooks or programs or anything they're going on. It's all those local ones who are doing that. I remember so many years of, they're hitting all the downtown stores, and it's like, okay, we need to think about how you can bring back and shop back. So that's important stuff to note.
Yeah, I have been in this position as director for Downtown Gadsden Incorporated for 18 years. It was October was 18 years. I grew up in Gadsden. I grew up coming to downtown Gadsden with my mom and my sister shopping because at that point, there was no Kmart, there was no Walmart. It was downtown, and that's where you went. Your big box stores then were the locally owned clothing stores and dime stores and things like that. As I grew up, my passion was to come to downtown Gadsden, and that's what we did. So I was in the banking business in downtown Gadsden for 30 years and 9 long months. That 9 months, the last time as you can tell, probably was not as much fun. So, but I remember thinking that way back in the day when I first started, if I didn't work downtown, I would never come downtown. There was nothing. Downtown Gadsden was basically a ghost town. We had probably a 40% occupancy rate, lots of boarded up businesses. And it was just not a fun place to be, but I worked downtown, so I came downtown. Gadsden went through a streetscape project in 1998, and that brought businesses back. They'd all moved to the mall, and that was what had created this mass exodus, I suppose. All those locally owned stores that were here when I was growing up left and went to the mall. So we had the streetscape project in 1998. Now it was a mess while it was happening, and people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people were not happy. They dug down 6 feet deep to get to some old cable car tracks and things like that. So, but when it was done, we had angled parking. We had they added trees, and they added a nice landscaping plan as well. So the people then started coming back. So yeah, so in 1998, so let's say from 1978 to 1998, it was not a good place to be. It really was not. But 1998, when that happened, they added some new businesses, some new buildings, and a new downtown civic center, things like that, and that brought people back to downtown. So that was the fun part of it. And I was still at the bank at that point. I left the bank in 2004 for a little short stint in a mortgage business. But you asked me why I came back to downtown.
Yeah, what interested you the most about being a part of that downtown program?
I got a call, and they were looking for a new Main Street director. So I love downtown Gadsden. It has been my passion. Like I say, I grew up here. This is where I grew up coming to shop. So when they called and said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Absolutely." I took a substantial pay cut, but I've never looked back. I've never regretted it because this has been something that I always loved, and I still do. And I just want it. I want it to continue to grow. We've grown a lot over the last 10 to 15 years, and I want it to continue to grow. That's my goal and my plan.
That's awesome. So you already told us how long you've worked at Downtown Gadsden Inc. Over that time frame, because it sounds like you were still working at the bank during the Streetscape project, and you and I have visited many times. I also lived through as the director of the Streetscape of Main Street while the Streetscape project was going on. Lord, it's a lot. A whole year of my life that I'll never get back, but it sure looks pretty. But it was a lot, just, tearing streets up. It's just, but you got to look past all that and get to the good stuff. But since that, when you came on in 2007,
7. Mhm.
What have you noticed a shift in your primary focus from then to what it is today?
Well, when I first came on, Main Street Alabama really was technically not in existence. The board of directors hired me to follow the 4 Points program, which we did, but there was no one to report to. So that has been a lot. You've been here 15 years?
2013 is when I
12
arrived.
years.
So I've been here 13 years. Yeah, 13
Okay.
years.
So when you came, then that program actually did kick off again. So when I first got here, we really didn't know what we were doing. We had meetings, but it was not like it is now. So we've gone from being not a true, I guess I'd say not a true Main Street program, because we really were not, but we tried. They were trying, and they were trying to hold it together. And I give Ellen Mertens a lot of credit for that. We did have meetings and we had a good time, but we were a small group then. Now, one thing that I could definitely tell you that I've noticed is we've grown exponentially. Locally, yes, we've gotten a lot of support now from our city. Our mayor now is very active in. He's formed an arts council. So
Cool.
we've gone from not doing a whole lot of what can I say? We've done not a whole lot of proactive things to where now we are actually doing a lot of different things that we'd never done in the past. Our merchants work so well together, and that is such a benefit for me because it makes my job easier. We get together, we have meetings, and we just try to figure out things that'll work, things that'll happen, things that can make us better. But again, when you have the support of the city government, which we do 100%, we've always had support, but this is a whole nother level of support that we're getting now. So we've come to where we were doing what we could do to now we're really being pushed to do more. So I think that's good.
That's exciting. Tell me a little bit about your upper story. I know this wasn't on the questions, but we'll just keep rolling with flow here. Tell me about your upper story development, what's been occurring there, and what happened down below when your upper stories got filled.
When I started here, we had 13 upper story units. Right now, we're close to 40. We've got 27. The old Sears building, it's just right up the street. It actually looks down over, it's up the hill and it looks down over downtown Gadsden. 27 units, some 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedroom units there. Will be ready in April or May of 2026. We're excited about that. There's another one in the center of town. That will be, he's gotten restarted. He kind of had a little bit of a let's take a pause, but now he's restarted on that. He's working on that, and he's great. Both of these have great parking. So when you can have loft apartments with parking, that's really good because currently most of ours don't. But the lower levels, for example, we've got 2. And they're actually now Airbnbs. They were apartments. They've been now rented as Airbnbs. There's a restaurant below. So can you imagine staying in an Airbnb with a restaurant below? The 15 units that will be developed in Midtown, in the mid block, and in the center of town, that is open, and he's looking to develop maybe 3 different businesses under there.
Wow.
So that will be great. They'll have an entrance to the apartments on Broad and an entrance in the back. So he's thinking about, it's a 50-foot building storefront face. So he's may split it into 3 parts, have one 25-foot and 2 12.5 feet. It's fairly long, and it'll be something good that it'll offer different opportunities for different people. So the one at the old Sears building, it's just going to be apartments, but gosh, it's going to be great. I'm really excited about that. Caleb Campbell developed that, and you've been in one of his apartments. He's already done 15 units. You've been in that one, so he's won an award before. And he started because he bought our old federal building, and he's completely redone it, done it to specific
It's spectacular.
historic. Yes,
It is
yes.
so nice.
And he's one of my what I call my hometown heroes because
Yeah.
he grew up here. He was living in Pittsburgh. Campbell Development, that was their corporate headquarters were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Uh,
He wanted to come home. He
Aw.
called me. He called me and he said, "Kay, I'm looking for some property," because a friend of his had already bought some property and developed it. And so I said, "Well, Caleb, this just went on the auction block, but it's on the internet. He bought that thing and he fixed it up. And now he bought the building next to it with apartments. And now he's bought the Sears building with apartments. He's not slowing down. So I'm excited to have him as what I call my hometown hero."
It's fun. I think what people need to realize is when you have people living upstairs in a district, it adds so much vitality to the district. Businesses get much more visitation, and you have eyes on the street all the time because people are living there. That's what these buildings were meant for people to live there, not to, be empty. So it's exciting to me that you're 94% full in your entire district, right? Do I got my numbers right?
That's about
I mean,
92, 90, about 92. Let's say 92. Close.
No one's would bicker about 92% having that much of it full. That's great. She's doing some amazing things. So final question today, Kay, on a Friday morning. What advice would you give someone who's interested in getting involved in Main Street, whether it's a volunteer or whether a city is looking at it? What is Main Street? What advice would you give about Main Street?
I don't think people realize how much Main Street, Alabama helps us. As an older program, we don't need the help, but the younger program. I was telling you, I got a call this morning from a Main Street. They're not okay. What do you call them? What are they? They're not
a network.
Yeah, they're a network city. She needed to ask me a question, and I love it when people call me and say, "Can you help me with this?" So I think that Main Street will almost guarantee you that if you follow the 4 points, if you do what you're supposed to do, if you utilize your programs, your volunteers, and everything else, you're going to be successful. Will it be overnight? Absolutely not. But you just got to keep on and don't give up, because I think it's a great, great program. Gadsden wouldn't be where it is now without Main Street, Alabama. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you. And it is about relationship building. And anybody who's listening to this podcast can tell that Kay is a great connector of people and projects and a great relationship builder. So if you take away anything from this particular podcast, get out and talk to people, build those relationships, look at opportunities that are out there. And people do want to come home and they do want to be a part of that family that they grew up with. And Main Street's a family. We really are. We help each other and razz each other and tease each other and do all the things, but
That's
you never
true.
know what's going to come out on directors' calls each month. But we do have that camaraderie, and I think that is the camaraderie is hopeful that everybody will be successful. That's really where we're at. So, well, thank you so much, Kay Moore. We appreciate it, and we'll get to the next interview on the podcast here shortly. We are visiting with Anne Marie Bryan. Anne Marie is the executive director of Monroeville Main Street, which just happens to be our very first Great American Main Street Award winner in the state of Alabama. And we're so very proud. This is a part of the Sweet Hometowns podcast. And it is understanding that community development isn't just about buildings. It's about people. It's about how everyday folks show up, work together, and make their districts better year after year. And there's no one better to talk to about that than Anne Marie. So Anne Marie, if you would introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Main Street.
My name is Anne Marie Dees Bryan. I am a childhood resident of Monroeville, Alabama. I left here for about 20 years. I have a very eclectic background, from a little bit of work in government in Washington, D.C., which was extremely educational, to real estate. But most of my background is business troubleshooting and management for big companies and little companies. So it's just kind of amazing how all my weird jobs made me perfect for this one.
Prepared you for sure. So when did you first become acquainted with the Main Street program? What really interested you the most at the time?
Well, I've got to say it was kind of introduced to me in a sneaky way because somebody already had a plan, I'm pretty sure. And I went to work for our chamber director very temporarily because she lost her office manager, and I had been volunteering for her a lot since I wasn't working at the time. She said, "Oh, would you do all this reporting? I think you would understand this." And so I did all the initial Main Street reporting that was required. And she said, "Oh, this is great. Hey, I'm going to the first Main Street conference. Would you like to join me?" And I went and I saw Mary speak. And what drew me, because I grew up in privately owned business here in Monroeville, was when Mary said, "Work with what you have, strengthen what you have, because they're the reason you're still standing. So work with those things, be yourself, and then grow." And I was like, well, finally, somebody gets it. Well, it turns out there are thousands of people out there that get it, and communities that have been doing this. And I just was hooked.
That's great. So how long have you worked with Monroeville Main Street?
I start my 12th year
Wow.
on December 1st. So, yeah, it's been wild.
And you've been here almost as long as I have been. That's you're one of our first cities to come on. So it's exciting for us to still be in the journey together, Anne-Marie. Thanks for hanging. Have you noticed a shift in your primary focus from what you started on to what you're doing today?
Well, we started with small things, and this was kind of like we started building an engine, and then we kind of moved on to building a car, and now we're just seeing how fast we can drive it and how far we can go. It's basically,
That's awesome.
and that's the best I can come up with. And Main Street has given us the best training and the most amazing toolbox to work with to build all these things. We went from how can we help our mom and pops shift or sell or let go of the building that is sentimental to we have 9 business owners and property owners under the age of 35, which to me says we have turned the corner, and now let's see if we can get them to the 50-year mark with their businesses.
Wow, that's exciting. So I'm going to shift the questions a little bit. The order, I want to talk to you about GAMSA, which for those of you who are listening is the Great American Main Street Award. This comes from the National Main Street Center, Main Street America. It is a huge honor. I was blessed to have been a part of the process when I was a local director in Kansas, and was just thrilled to be able to help Monroeville reach this goal. So tell us about your experience and what that recognition has meant to you.
I was so overwhelmed because I didn't even think we'd get a glance. And when I got the phone call, I can remember as vividly as if it was 10 minutes ago where I was, what I was doing, and the relief that somebody was on the other line calling you, because I didn't think I was going to be able to get it out of my mouth. I was so excited. It was like, oh my gosh, we did it. It just, all of us, all together, all this hard work, it's paying off. We did it right. And it was so overwhelmingly excited to be honored in that way and be compared to some of my favorite cities. And the one I visit the most is a Mississippi GAMSA winner, is Ocean Springs. And they were such an inspiration when I would go visit their town. And now my nephew lives there. He was like, man, you talked this place up great. It was surreal.
What has the award, since you've received it, and the lovely thing too, is that Main Street, Alabama hosted the National Main Streets Conference in 2024 in Birmingham. And that was the year that Monroeville was recognized with the Great American Main Street Awards. So that's lovely, having it in your own state. And you had a huge group. How many people did you have on the stage that came that day?
We had over 40 people, which goes back to that. We did it because they all had a hand in it. And they were so excited and so proud that they could attend. We had company presidents and CEOs and all kinds of incredible people, from our retired volunteers to all of our downtown partners, the library, the chamber, the museum, the EDA, and some of our biggest supporters, and some volunteers and board members. And for us, it wasn't just, yay, we got a bronze plaque. It was truly a reflection of all of our hard work as a community and what we built together. It just was amazing. Even to have the governor fly in when she had other plans, just because she knew a week in advance that, yay, Monroeville's going to get this. And she wanted to come be a part of it because she grew up spending time in our county. And it has opened so many doors. The publicity that we got and the phone calls I would get from people I went to college with that were like, did you know you were in the Middle Eastern banking news today? And I'm like, for what? And they're like, we heard Monroeville won a huge award. And to get that kind of traffic, the biggest shift locally that we've seen was our sponsorship skyrocketed. We had over an 85% increase in just our annual membership sponsorship alone. But the grant opportunities and the recognition that we've gotten from that, being able to get some of these highly sought after, very limited grants that we just didn't think that we'd ever have a shot at. It's been incredible for everybody in our community.
It is an award that you get to, that carries you, sustains you for a very long time, because it was a long time ago when Emporia won it, but it's still near and dear, and still something that is something that community rallies around. That's the really cool thing, to be recognized on the national level for the hard work that you do, because I say it all the time, and I know you've heard me say it, that Main Street will work every time if you work it. But it is work, and it's not somebody can just come in and say, poof, you're better. You have to spend all that time and work with, like you said earlier, those existing businesses, the people who settled there, the people who loved the community so much they put their names on the buildings. Those are the types of things you really have to think about, and that carries you through with the Great American Main Street Awards. So I'm so very proud of Monroeville, and of you in particular, for all the work that you've done to get to that point. So just huge kudos, and glad we have you as one of our women who lead in the Main Street districts, because you've been a very important figure to the other Main Street programs over the years too. So thank you for that. We do appreciate it. And that gets us to our last question. What advice would you give someone who's interested in getting involved in Main Street, whether it's another city, whether it's a volunteer? What advice would you give someone?
Well, as far as another city, it's like being given an instruction manual that you get to pick and choose the tools you use and build whatever you want. And we wouldn't be here without all the trainings and all the tools from a state level, from national conferences, and learning from each other. Get to know your neighboring communities. Once you get all those skill sets together, everybody's got a skill set that you're going to need at some point.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with their job. So ask people what they see as their skill set and what are they passionate about. And remember that Main Street, it's a team sport.
Yes.
This is not an I event. This is we got to get in there and do it together, because if you're like our community that was sitting at almost 60% occupancy, and that's 40% of our buildings were empty. And you're looking around and like, wow, that's a big mountain to climb. It took all of us. It took the city making the first step and actually investing, but then the continuation of their investment. So get people excited. Don't wait to be invited. If you want to volunteer, just show up and keep showing up and keep showing up and letting them know, I'm here and I want to help. And this is what I love to do. And how can we make this be something on Main Street? Because it wouldn't be the first time somebody built an event around somebody else's skill set, because those are the events that are easy for us as directors. So we don't need experts in Main Street districts all the time. We need doers. We need to look to our working boards and have them understand when they step on that this is not a, hey, show up once a month and vote. This is a roll up your sleeves and help us plant. Would you keep your ear to the ground about what's going on out in the community? Would you be an advocate for us and an ambassador for downtown? If you start the conversation, it will just keep moving. And all of a sudden, you've gone from a small group of people to a tiny little army that's just out to make everything better. I can't say enough about how much help I've had from so many other people. It really has made a tremendous difference in every single project we put together.
Great advice. Just get out there and get involved. And I do think it's important to note, if you're not a public speaker, there are roles for you. If you are, someone who loves data and wants to be behind the keyboard, there's work for you. If you're someone who loves architecture and design or horticulture, there's room for you. There's room for, people who just like to mingle with other people and make their community better. So great advice. Thank you so much for your time today, Anne-Marie.
Okay, that concludes this version of the podcast talking about women who lead Main Street. We're very excited to have had Kay Moore from Downtown Gadsden, Inc.
Anne-Marie Bryan. Anne-Marie is the Executive Director of Monroeville Main Street.
And our own Jennifer Schutte from Main Street, Alabama.
You can learn more about Main Street Alabama and the Sweet Hometowns Initiative at sweethometowns.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates and episode highlights.
The Sweet Hometowns podcast is a production of Main Street Alabama in partnership with Video Visions Media Marketing.